This is BYU Sports Nation, brought to you by the BYU Store, simulcast on BYU TV and BYU Radio. Now, live from Studio B, your hosts, Jason Shepherd and Brian Logan.
BYU Sports Nation is live. We're your day-to-day play-by-play right here in Studio B, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. We've made it to September today, Wednesday, September 1st. Thank you so much for tuning in. Brian, it's good to see you survived BYUSN's cutdown day yesterday.
Yeah, I'm
you made the 53-man roster.
Happy I made it, man. I'm happy I made it. You know, I want to say shout out to JJ, Jarom Jordan. Keep your head up. It's always practice rosters. You know, you have a lot of film, a lot of good film.
Oh, are you alluding to since Jarom's not here, he was cut yesterday? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I assumed that was the case. But
well,
yeah,
I guess
keep
we'll
your head
have to
up,
find
JJ.
out. Yeah.
Keep your head up.
Keep your head up, Jarom. It's yesterday was cutdown day in the NFL. Teams had to get down to 53. Unfortunately, there were a lot of BYU players that were cut. The hope is obviously that if you're not going to make the 53-man roster, you have to clear waivers. You know, the hope certainly somebody picks you up and they want to put you on their roster. Right. But practice squads are certainly options for some of these players. And I think there's actually it's pretty likely that at least half of the players that were cut yesterday with BYU ties, I think they have a pretty good chance of making the practice squad. Obviously, as a Chiefs fan, I'm following Kansas City, and I know that they're hoping that Zane Anderson, who was cut, is somebody that they can put on their practice squad. But again, you have to clear waivers, and there's a chance another team may pick you up.
That'd be a good one for Zane. And speaking of cuts, did you get a haircut?
I did get a haircut.
You look nice. You are a handsome.
Thank you,
man.
Thank you very much.
I really like that. Whoever your barber is, you keep going to that person. They did a really good job.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I got the haircut yesterday. We got a lot of important stuff coming up this week, you know. So I thought, you know, it's time to finally get the haircut. It's getting a little shaggy.
Yeah, you gotta look good. You look good. You feel good. You feel good. You know, produce good, I guess.
You know what I feel good about? It's today's show lineup. Let's get to it. What does Kalani Sitake's contract extension mean for the state of the BYU football program? We will discuss that coming up in Trending. Also, the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell, stops by to preview the season opener against the Arizona Wildcats. A very powerful deep blue with defensive tackle, and I'm gonna have to get familiar with this and say it fast. I don't want to have to slow down. Atunaisa Mahe.
Ooh,
yes,
that was good.
Yes, thank you very much. Atunaisa. The good news is everybody calls him Nisa, so you know you can kind of shorten it. You are not going to want to miss this deep blue with Atunaisa Mahe. It is fantastic. Plus a top 5 BYU plays from season openers against Arizona. It is a very, very specific top 5 Tuesday. Even though we're doing it on a Wednesday. We ran out of time yesterday, so it is a Top 5 Tuesday on a Wednesday. But first, let's bring on today's BYU Sports Nation headlines.
BYU Athletic Director Tom Homo announced a contract extension for head football coach Kalani Sitake. The extension inks Sitake as the head coach through 2025. So congratulations to Coach Sitake and all he's done. Coach Sitake says he's glad that it won't be a distraction.
And just really thankful that we have more time together, and just I don't want it to be a distraction. I just want to focus on the season and focus on this game this weekend. But it feels good to have the belief in our players and our program.
Yeah, that was Coach Sitake last night on the season debut of BYU football with Kalani Sitake. So good to have that back. It obviously means it's football season, but obviously congratulations to head coach Kalani Sitake on the extension. More on that coming up in Trending. All right, as the Cougars continue to prepare for the season opener on Saturday against Arizona, the defense took center stage last night during media availability. Linebacker Peyton Wilgar talks about preparing for the unknown of Arizona.
There's a lot of unknowns, really. You know, we don't have a ton of film on them. You know, they got a new coaching staff, so there's a lot of unknowns. So I'm not too worried about really what they're going to come out and do. I'm more focused on what we can do and what we can control and get better as a defense and go out there and do our thing. And then as they come out and do whatever they do, we can make adjustments and change.
Look, we hear teams talk about that all the time, Brian. You know, we just need to focus on us. A situation like this, that's all you can do.
I think that's absolutely right, and even more so the adjustments part, right? To me, that's what makes or breaks strategy, a team, and really a win or a loss, right? Is can you adjust and not play, checkers, but play a man's game of chess.
I've never played chess.
Me either. After the final NFL roster cuts yesterday, like we said earlier, the show.
Does that mean we're not men, by the way?
I'm a man's man.
Okay.
I'm a man. I'm a boy. 13 Cougars remain on NFL rosters. Rookies Brady Christensen, Dax Mill, Kyrus Tonga, and Zach Wilson all make their team. Matt Bushman, Chad and Heron, Zach Daw, Chris Wilcox, Corbin, and Bronson Kafusi were all waived. But like we said to JJ, Jarom Jordan, keep your head up. Always practice roster and other opportunities, so don't get too down.
Cross-country preseason rankings were released yesterday by the USTF CCCA. The reigning NCAA Division I national champion BYU women's team ranked number 1. Now, the men's team will begin the year ranked 3rd. The Cougars begin the season Saturday, September 11th at the Autumn Classic at Timpanogos Country Club.
Despite losing at Arkansas Monday, BYU soccer jumps to 14th in the coaches poll rankings. How did that happen? Other teams probably lost. The Cougars host Marquette tomorrow at 9 Eastern on BYU TV and the app.
All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending.
You're talking about it, and so are we. It's What's Trending on BYU Sports Nation.
So late in the afternoon yesterday, BYU made the announcement that head football coach Kalani Sitake received a contract extension through the 2025 season. Now, Coach Sitake has an overall record of 38-26 as he gets ready to begin his 6th season at the helm of the Cougar football program. Kalani had previously received an extension back in November of 2019, which took his contract at that point through 2023. So this new deal is a 2-year extension to that. So, Brian, what does Kalani Sitake's contract extension mean to you for the BYU football program?
At first, the I would say the curious George in me thought that BYU possibly would be getting a Big 12 invite, right? And I was a little bit, confused. Not confused, but I was kind of just thinking, like, why is this happening now, so to speak, right? And without knowing too much details and just like the politics and how that goes on when it comes to extensions and contracts, I didn't really hear much. So I was like, this is kind of random, but I don't believe in randomness. And so that was my initial reaction. Maybe that they are preparing for an extra 2 years because they know they're going to a P5 conference, right? With all this stuff that's been going on with the Big 12 and expansion and pretty much how BYU is the best option right now, it kind of, the coincidence of the timing just didn't really sit right with me in my stomach. So that was my first initial thought. But then after things kind of settled and I kind of just analyzed everything, I think what this means for the program is momentum and positive momentum, right? When you look at what happened last year, you look at what happened with Zach, the relevancy, right? Everybody is talking about BYU football, especially right now when it comes to conference expansion and realignment. So I think, from Tom Homo's perspective, we have all this great momentum going. We already have a brand, but we're starting to become more and more relevant over the past couple of years. And so, let's kind of solidify where we're at as a program with the staff and the direction that we're going and show our appreciation to Kalani. And, what better way to do that than by giving him an extension?
See, there are a couple of things that stand out to me. And the days of somebody will say, well, you have a 5-year extension. So after the 5th year, then you try and renegotiate. That's not how it works anymore. Most coaches do not go into their last year, certainly the last year, and in a lot of cases, the last 2 years without a contract extension. And so I think there's some of that, let's get this done. We want him in the program. Let's get this done now. So I think there's certainly some of that.
So what if they don't want a coach? We just get fired right there?
So that's what a lot of people will read into it. If a coach goes into the last year of their contract, a lot of people read into that, they haven't extended him now. They clearly are looking for other options.
Gotcha.
That is what most people believe is the situation because they call them lame duck coaches when you go into your last year as a head coach.
Wait. Time out. Lame duck?
Lame duck. You've never heard that expression? Oh, yeah. That's what people call it. Say that when you go into the last year of your contract, because at that point, you know, it's typically done by then. And so players know, like, well, he doesn't have a contract past this year. So
I'm not listening to you, coach.
Yeah,
You're not going to be my coach next year.
Yeah, so I think there's a part of this is we know we want Kalani. Let's just get this done now. We don't even have to worry about any of that. The other two things that really stand out to me in terms of what this means for the football program is, number one, it means the team is winning.
Yep.
And obviously we mentioned his overall record at 38-26, but obviously BYU's coming off a fantastic year, an 11-1 season, and you're not going to give somebody a contract extension if the team's not successful. Right. That is a byproduct of the success is, okay, we know what this coach and subsequently the coaching staff that he has hired has done. We want to reward them for the success that they've had. And this is a vote of confidence that the athletic department is pleased with the direction that the football program is going in. The other part is, I think this just screams program stability. The players absolutely love this guy. Every time you hear one of the players talk about Coach Sitake, it's how much they love him, how much they respect him, and that they would do anything for him because they have that type of relationship as players and coaches.
I think everybody, I mean, since he's took over, I haven't heard one, you know, negative comment about Kalani in regards to like personality, right? I mean, we're all going to
leave.
Exactly.
They still talk about.
I like him. I mean, he's made me feel like I can come to, you know, the football offices, you know, around the program anytime I want. I've felt like he's tried to reach out and make me feel, you know, personally comfortable. I know other teammates that I play with feel the same way. And so I you know, there's really nothing bad that you can say, you know, in regards to his personality, how he cares about people. I think if you probably have something negative, maybe something is wrong with you type deal.
Right.
I mean, and I think when somebody says something like that about a coach or just an individual in general, you know, that says a lot, speaks volume of the
I honestly, I cannot think off the top of my head of anybody that has had something negative to say about Kalani.
Exactly.
He's that type of guy. The other part about this, it lets the current players know that the guy they committed to play for is going to be here.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Also, from a recruiting standpoint, if Kalani and the coaching staff is out recruiting guys, and we know that they are, it also lets these potential recruits know that I'm here. If you're committing to us, you're committing to this coaching staff and this head coach, and that's a big deal.
It is huge. And I know some people, and maybe even some recruits will say, let's say they commit to a school, the head coach leaves, and then they'll announce like, I'm still committed. And, you know, players, they commit to schools, they don't commit to coaches. That's a bunch of baloney. Ooh, I almost said something different. That's a bunch of garbage, man. You commit to the coach and the coaching staff, right? Once you get to the school, things change a little bit. You get a little bit more of the program history, right? You start to focus more on the logo on the front of your jersey versus, you know, the last name on the back. But initially, when you're having those conversations, I'm committing to you, coach.
Yes.
I'm not committing to nothing else but you. So, yeah, that does show stability from a recruiter standpoint.
And I want to go to something that you said because it's something I wanted to bring up as well, and that's all of the BYU to the Big 12 rumors. That's out there. There's no way of ignoring it or denying it. It is out there, and there does feel like there is momentum building based off of reports that are out there. With all of those things out there showing as much program stability from top to bottom to the Big 12 or any potential conference that may be looking at BYU, and certainly right now that is the Big 12, there is nothing wrong with that. That is a great thing to be able to say, hey, look what we have in football. Our football coach not only is winning, but he's under contract through 2025. Oh, hey, look at our basketball coach who's under contract through 2026. All he's done is gone to the NCAA tournament every year he's been here as a head coach. So that stability is something that absolutely people on the outside looking in, potential conferences, look at and say, that is another plus for BYU.
It's pretty much saying they have their house in order.
Exactly. And I think those are all things that will benefit BYU, and those are all things that you can look at as positives with this news for Kalani Sitake getting the extension as the head coach of the Cougars. And that brings us to our question of the day, and we're going to stay with this. What does Kalani Sitake's contract extension mean for the BYU football program? Let's hear from you in Voice of the Nation.
This is the Voice of the Nation on BYU Sports Nation.
First response on Twitter at Kipkint. The floor with Kalani is stability and reasonable success, and players who know they are part of a family and they matter. Kalani loves our boys, and they know it. The ceiling, multiple top 25 finishes, staying relevant, and an occasional special season. What more could you ask for? Don't forget, use hashtag BYUSN, and you can respond on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
That's a good one. I would ask for one more thing, a win against Utah.
Hey, we're 10 days away.
Just one more thing on that list.
Yes.
Coming up, which BYU coach could suit up and play against Arizona?
But next, the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell, joins us in Studio B. I wonder if we could get him to take part in the countdown with us. I guess we'll find out. This is BYU Sports Nation.
My name is Spencer Finnegan. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. During my sophomore year, I got married to my sweetheart, Mary, and there's tons of unexpected expenses when it comes to marriage. We were looking for scholarships. I found the replenishment grant, and my local alumni chapter gave me a grant to help me focus in on school. I'm so excited to, now that I've graduated, give back to those students that are coming to BYU in the future.
Introducing the all-new 2021 Nissan Rogue. A fuel-efficient car that's compact enough to park just about anywhere, but has enough cargo space to fit your hobbies, your kids' hobbies, and your dog's hobbies. It's equipped with the latest safety and efficiency technology for a smooth and quiet ride wherever you want to go, whether it's through the neighborhood or across the country. Are you ready to rogue? It's at Tim Daly Nissan Southtown.
Hi, Spencer Linton here, letting you know when your company joins the BYU team as a corporate partner, your brand can be featured in sports programming on BYU TV and BYU Radio. In addition to all of the great games, you can be part of the BYU coaches shows, place your message in Countdown to Kickoff, basketball pre- and post-game shows, and each weekday on BYU Sports Nation. We invite your team to join ours and become a corporate sponsor of BYU Athletics. For details, email sponsorship@byu.edu today.
Rebecca is our first para-athlete. So, your very first sport, alpine skiing.
I'm looking over at the top of the hill and my stomach just gets so queasy.
Every moment matters.
Considering this is only his third day on snow, this is pretty impressive.
Let's go!
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Join us for a special BYU Sports Nation live from Las Vegas at the Fan Fest on Friday. Jarom Jordan will be hanging out with BYU alums Jamal Willis, Patrick Mitchell, and Tim McTire. And fans, as we get ready for the BYU season opener. Watch Friday at 9 Eastern here on BYU TV and the app.
Looking forward to that. We're live in Studio B with your day-to-day BYU sports play-by-play. He is Brian Logan. I am Jason Shepherd, and joining us now in Studio B, the voice of the BYU Cougars. He is one Greg Wrubell. Hello, Greg.
Hello, Shep. Hello, Brian.
Hello. I'm sorry. Right when you said that, I just thought of, like, this is my favorite Canadian.
Oh.
So yeah, I have Drake, I have Justin Bieber, but then you are number one. You've been number one for a while, so I kind of had like a little
over Drake and Justin Bieber.
Yeah, Greg, that is celebrity.
That is
high praise.
A little bit.
But I appreciate that.
You know, it's more personable here, and yeah, you know.
You probably had more dealings with me than Drake, I'm guessing.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
But not Justin Bieber.
Not Justin Bieber. I went to like 5 of his concerts, so.
Okay. So, Greg, you had some pretty big news last night. You had the season debut of BYU football with Kalani Sitake, and it wasn't that far before that we found out Kalani Sitake received a contract extension through 2025. Yeah. I'll ask you the question we were talking about in trending, and then it's our question of the day. What does this extension mean for the BYU football program?
I think it was just after rehearsal ended for the show that we found out that this came across, and so I thought, well, this is great. We get to chat with Kalani about it, and he didn't want to make it about himself clearly on the show. You know, it's a representation of commitment. He said not just for him, but for the guys, the players, the boys on the team, and what they've been doing. And more than anything else, I think that's what it is. It's an affirmation that the direction things are going is a really pleasing one. And he's now been extended a couple of times before any talk of expirations would ever be an issue, which is also great. Yep. And I think it also just signals a certain level of stability. For anybody that wants to know where BYU football is going, they've got a pretty good indication. And the numbers are great right now. I mean, it's with the schedules BYU has year in, year out, you can't necessarily go apples to apples from 20 or 30 or even 40 years ago because of how schedules are constructed. But being a dozen games above 500, getting to a bowl pretty much every year, winning most of your bowl games, the 11-1 season, the national reemergence of BYU in a way, all happening under his watch, all really positive signs.
Do you think that this extension could help, I guess, BYU's resume when it comes to conference expansion and conferences like the Big 12, you know, looking to add a team like BYU? Yeah,
it's another indication if you're looking at BYU for something like that. There's an anchor, there's stability, there's direction. There's not a real fear as to what this program might look like or how it's been performing. I think all the questions have kind of been answered at this point.
So I was going to ask you a Big 12 question at the end, but since it was just brought up, real quick before we move on, does this BYU to the Big 12, the speculation, the rumors that are out, does this feel different to you than in years past?
It does because of where the leverage lies right now. In the past, the Big 12 or any other P5 conference had the leverage over who was ever, seeking an opening or an entree to those particular leagues. And now, with the Big 12 operating at somewhat of a disadvantage numerically, in a lot of other ways, people talking about P4 suddenly, there's now an element of leverage that swings to the schools that could help add value. And as it's been talked about and written about, there's one school out there that's a free agent, if you will, that adds the most value, and that's BYU. And so I think it's never been a better opportunity, a better timing situation for BYU, especially coming off the 11-1 season. And I think even this game Saturday, I think is another decent indicator of where BYU is in the national landscape. I think it'll be evident that the Cougars will control most of the crowd in that building, and that's a factor. Should the Cougars play well and win in that national marquee situation, that's another factor of, wow, this BYU program is something to kind of reckon with, recognize, and see as a value-added proposition.
So when it comes to Saturday, I mean, I think us as fans and analysts, we have tons of question marks, maybe some concerns. But when it comes to the most intriguing headlines for this game against Arizona, what stands out to you most?
Well, I think it's going to be just how much continuity BYU can display with a new quarterback and a new OC. Because generally speaking, and I'm going to get to this in a second, why it's different for BYU, but generally speaking, new regimes with new quarterbacks and new OCs and new head coaches coming together on the first game, those first games rarely work out perfectly.
Horrible.
In fact, if you look at BYU's last 5 OC debuts, the Cougs have averaged under 17 points per game in those games, in those first games. They'll ultimately be good and can be good, but the first games are generally a bit of a struggle. Now, how is that now? And Arizona has the new quarterback, they have the new head coach, they have the new OC. They're right in that mix where that could be a low-scoring game for them. So why does it not apply to BYU? Well, to an extent, because Aaron Roderick's already kind of been in the seat. All right. Yes, he's a new first-year OC, but not really. It's kind of with an asterisk. He was already the pass game coordinator. He was already involved in play calling. He's done the job before. That's different from Arizona's OC, Brennan Carroll. This is a new thing for him. He's been in the NFL, hasn't been a college OC. All these things coming together at a different time for Arizona. But for BYU, there's a little more continuity. I mentioned A-Rod's history, and Jaron Hall's already had starts. He's been under fire. So I think BYU's in a better situation for a first game scenario. Plus the head coach is the same. Almost everyone else is the same. It's a different deal from Arizona to BYU. So I think of this battle of, first game OCs and new starting quarterbacks, BYU has the edge.
So let's take this a little step further, and feel free to answer this however you want, whether it's with actual statistics or more scheme and overall stuff. What are your expectations for Jaron Hall in the offense?
Well, I don't think it's unreasonable to look back at his previous cameo in 2019 and say the way he plays then can produce numbers now. It's arguable that the supporting cast around him maybe even a little better at this point, even though the Cougars lost, a great receiver to the NFL. I think personally this could be a Gunnar Romney year. I just got a sense if he can stay healthy, if he can stay healthy. And his thing has just been that, playing every game, and then when he's playing, being full go, because he'll sometimes come back and play through stuff as well. That's been his only drawback at all. If Gunnar is a healthy Gunnar Romney this year, I think he's due for a massive year. I think he's that good. He's really impressive, and the crew around him is excellent. The tight end options are solid. The backfield we know is pretty stout, and Jaron Hall, being a playmaker that he is, it's blue goggle time, but
there they are.
I just think
there it is.
that BYU can really kind of pick up where it left off a little bit offensively, and that's what I'm most excited to see is just how much of a role they can get on right from the start.
Well, I can't be the only one not.
I'm with you with
going to do this.
I'm with you with Gunnar, and that makes me excited because when I talk to former players and other analysts, they kind of look at me sideways like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, I can't be the only person that sees something special in this kid. So I'm happy that you agree.
I do see it.
So we talked about the offensive side. Let's go to the best side of the football, which is the defensive side. What playmakers or storylines are you looking for heading into this game?
Not that they're the no-name defense, but I think they kind of have rallied around that identity to an extent where there's so much focus on the offense, and there's so much attention to the fact that you lose Kyrus Tonga to the NFL and other players, and I think they've kind of rallied to kind of promote themselves as a group force and a group strength, and we're going to be heard from this year. And I really do think that, yes, while there will be some household names by the end of the year, I think it's going to be a strength in numbers situation for BYU, particularly up front. I don't think that despite the loss of impressive players that went on to play at the next level, BYU should have to take a necessary step back on the front line. And I do think on the back end, if there's more strength on the back end, and the coaching staff has not been shy about talking about how impressed they are with the back end talent right now, that should help things up front and maybe even help a little more aggressive mindset from game to game. And the linebacking core, and I'm going to include Ben Bywater in that core right now because I think he got a lot of valuable reps during camp. I think that those first four, if you will, with Peely and Wilgar, Bywater, Tooley, that's a really strong group there. So I just believe in this defense. I think Coach Tuiaki's numbers have held up over time now. You've got a nice wide sample of 5 seasons to go off of. They're legitimate numbers. They've excelled at taking away the big play. Teams rarely beat BYU on explosives, and that's been a real strength of this team. And so there's a time to be conservative and make sure that things are in front of you. But I think also Coach E and Kalani will know when to dial it up when they feel they've got the strength on the back end, again, to dial it up a bit on the front end.
So this may put you on the spot, but what's interesting to me, if you can think back, over, I don't know, 10, 20 years, where BYU hasn't had, a specific standout player, right? Like a no-name defense. If you think that they are more productive when it comes to not having a star player in standout, or if they're more productive with a group like this, coming into the season? Well,
I've always believed, and maybe it tends more toward the offense than the defense, but it's tough to have a special season without really special players. And I mean special statistical players. The 1,000-yard rusher, the 3,500-yard passer, the 1,000-yard receiver. You kind of need those guys to have big years. That's kind of proven itself over time. If you have just a bunch of decent guys, a bunch of really good guys, but no real standouts, it's hard to have that special year. Last year, I think, qualifies as a special year. Well, Dax Milne was special. Zach Wilson was special. And Tyler Algier were all special. They had those monumental numbers. It's a little different on the defensive end, but BYU's not known as a team that, say, racks up INTs at the corner spot, for example. If the corners are suddenly giving you, 3 or 4 picks a year, that's a change. That's actually a big difference. And so I think there are some numbers you could look to defensively to find stars and standouts. But I do think, again, overall, that it's going to be a strength in numbers situation defensively.
I'm really excited, and I agree with you 100% on Gunnar Romney. The ability for BYU to throw the ball downfield, I think, is going to be there again. We saw it last year, and it proved to be such a massive weapon for BYU. But I also expect a really, really big year on the ground. And I love what Tyler Algier brings, and Lopini, and obviously with Jaron, you have that aspect as well. I think the ground game is going to pay off big for BYU.
And it did last year, and it did with a scheme that that A-Rod kind of carries forth from Grimy to this season. And BYU found out what it did and did really well and stuck with it last year. But they presented it to you different ways. So the challenge for the opposing defenses isn't that BYU runs a ton of stuff. It's the stuff they do run. They do it so effectively out of different looks. The presentation's everything. And BYU's excelled at presentation, at showing you different ways to get into what they really want to do.
I want to ask you an NFL question, and we talked about yesterday, cut down day. Obviously, teams had to be down to 53. A lot of Cougars, unfortunately, were cut. The hope is a lot of them will be placed on practice squads. We just found out that, and we believe that he's the only one claimed off waivers, but Chris WILCOX, who was released by the Buccaneers, was claimed off of waivers by the Indianapolis Colts. So that's certainly a good sign for Chris WILCOX.
And he was the only draftee that didn't stick with the 53.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about
and we have to say he was hurt. I think hampered. I think a hamstring in camp,
yes.
and never quite. Yeah.
So that's great news for him. That's being reported by the NFL Network. It looks like he's going to be picked up by the Colts. But between that, obviously all of the guys making waves and significant contributions in the NFL, Dax Milne making the 53-man roster yesterday, this is a really, really good time for BYU players to be making those types of leaps into the pros.
And even reflecting back to your Big 12 question, BYU's part of a national conversation in a lot of ways. And we watched a lot of preseason football, I know, and every time a BYU guy made a play, well, they mentioned BYU. It just kind of follows immediately. He's out of BYU. And you hear that a lot more these days. And so I think the recent draft results, the way these guys played in the preseason, winning spots on 53s, winning starting positions, again, I think BYU's operating on a real crest right now in a lot of ways.
You know what would be interesting to know? So keeping with the theme and topic of the NFL, when you look at Allegiant Stadium, brand new stadium in Vegas, all the hype surrounding it, tons of fans and everything like that. It would be interesting to know if BYU plays better or even wins when they're playing in NFL stadiums. And I know when I played 2009, we played at the Cowboy Stadium.
Beat Oklahoma.
Then we went to New Orleans and played in the same stadium. We played in the Chargers stadium as well. So it would be interesting to see if there's some type of stat or metric, or maybe just even feel when it comes to the BYU football program over the years, if they elevate their game, if they get more excited. I know being a player, as soon as we walked in, everybody was just starstruck. Looking at the lockers and things like that.
Well, recently, FedEx Field and Arrowhead have been two that they've also played in.
Both losses. And so it's been a mixed bag in terms of results. But they've had some really games they've played well in and lost. But you go back to Kalani's first game as BYU's head coach. It came against Arizona in an NFL venue. It was down in Glendale. And, of course, BYU won that game. And, in fact, the parallels continue. Back in 2016, Arizona opener, NFL venue, Utah in week 2, another Pac-12 team in week 3, and that's what they have again going this year. Hope for better results this time around, because actually BYU did lose 3 in a row, I think, after beating Arizona in 16, rallied well to finish with a great record. But that'll be the situation this year. So a little bit of deja vu for Kalani, NFL venue, Arizona opener. But the fact that it's Allegiant Stadium, the crowd size going to be what it is, the placement where it is in the TV schedule, and then all the conversation percolating about BYU and does it move around here in the seasons to come. I think it's kind of a perfect storm for a chance for the Cougars to respond, play really well, hopefully get a big W and get this thing off on the right foot.
All right, it's time for the countdown. Greg, you want to participate with us? Now you do not have the music in your, so I'm going to cue you if you're willing to participate with us. Okay, Greg's in. So the countdown begins now.
Countdown to the Wildcats.
3 days away. Woo! There we go.
Nice.
There we. Look, nothing. I'm going to say I'm over here. I need to high five.
Is that the first time as a trio, do you think, for that particular?
Maybe.
I think so.
It may be.
No, no, it is. Let's just say it is.
All right, fine. We're taking it. It is.
It is.
Greg, great stuff as always. Thank you, and can't wait to hear you on the call on Saturday.
Looking forward to it.
Coming up, how a health scare turned into a positive for Atunaisa Mahe in Deep Blue.
And which projection about the BYU-Arizona game is your favorite? This is BYU Sports Nation.
thing Mountain America has learned over nearly a century of helping members achieve their financial dreams is that we are stronger together. We achieve great things together. And while we are still here to serve you, we know together feels different right now. It might take some time, but we're looking forward to the day when we can gather together again. We're still here, guiding you forward.
BYU Food to Go's convenient location at 2191 North Canyon Road in Provo makes bringing popular BYU foods to your next event easy. Everything's ready when you need it at the drive and load pickup. You drive in and they load no matter the weather. And stop in the on-site creamery for great BYU chocolate milk and ice cream. BYU Food to Go, bringing campus to your table. Call for details, 801-422-5001.
Surface conversations are just not interesting to us. We're looking for topics that will help listeners think more deeply. So the more detail, the more depth of expertise, the better. I'm Julie Rose. On Top of Mind, we waste no time getting to the heart of the issue. To get you the facts, free from hot takes or speculation, we inform, not inflame. There's more to the story. Dive deep with Top of Mind on BYU Radio.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Visible Supply Chain Management.
Watch a 2-hour countdown to kickoff special Saturday live from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas as BYU gets ready to face Arizona in the season opener. Join Dave, Uncle B, David, and Jarom as they get you ready for kickoff. Coverage begins at 8:30 Eastern on BYU TV and the app.
He is Brian. I'm Jason. This is BYU Sports Nation. You can always interact with the show, and we can hook you up with some great content throughout the day as well. All you need to do is follow us on social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. In the meantime, let's whip it. Cougar Whip Around, presented by Visible Supply Chain Management, tackling America's most challenging shipping problems. Brian, lead us off.
Bill Connelly released his Week 1 SP projections, and here are the BYU versus Arizona projections. Projected margin, 17.8. Win probability, 85%. Projected score, 39-21. Spread, BYU 12.5. And then over-under, 54. Conley projects, takes the over.
He wants you to take the over.
What about you?
Well, look, of all the projections, the one that stands out to me the most is the projected score. I love, in an opener, for BYU to score 39 points. I'll take that every day of the week. I'm a bit surprised that he's expecting 21 points from Arizona. Now I'm not. Now, they certainly could come out and surprise me. I'm not expecting 21 from the Wildcats.
I think the win probability stands out to me. It's a little bit low. I feel like it should be like 99.9.
I said 88 yesterday.
99.99999.
Okay, I like it.
99999.
You clearly, you're not willing to give them 100, so you doubt them.
Oh, I know we could do that. Yeah, 100% then. My bad.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. Arizona defensive coordinator Don Brown, who is also known as Dr. Blitz. By the way, if that's my nickname, I'd change my name permanently to Dr. Blitz. He was asked if BYU was at a disadvantage not having any film on the Wildcat defense. His response was, quote, "I can assure you this, they know we're coming over the walls," end quote. Should BYU be concerned about the threat of the blitz that Arizona brings?
Well, you know what? Our walls are high, so good luck. I don't think they should be concerned if they have the mindset and the understanding that, let us see what they're going to give us, and then let's have those adjustments, right? We talked about that in the beginning of the show. The playing chess, right? What does the offense or what does our opponent show us, and then how can we adjust to those?
Yeah, I don't believe they should be concerned because this is not a shock. We've known this is what the guy's name is Dr. Blitz. He's been the defensive coordinator since the beginning of the year. They knew that's what they were going to bring, so they've prepared for this all offseason.
Exactly. The Jets' 53-man roster is the youngest in the NFL. Should this worry Zach Wilson?
Yeah, it should. I mean, now granted, he's young too, but look, young also a lot of times means inexperienced, and it's going to take some time. It'll be some growing pains. Should he worry? Yeah, probably a little bit, but look, they'll figure it out. I have confidence in this coaching staff and with what they've got there. I like what they're building in New York.
I think sometimes experience hinders growth. And the fact that he's young, the team is already rallying around him. I think the city is rallying around him. You almost want to have young guys with him. So I think this is a better thing for Zach because of his leadership skills.
All right, Stuart Mandel is the latest with his bowl projections, and he has BYU playing Marshall in the Independence Bowl. Of the projected bowl matchups, and there, Mandel has BYU playing Marshall, ESPN has the Cougars taking on Louisiana Tech, and Bleacher Report has BYU versus UAB. Which would you be most excited about, Brian? You want to take a pass?
Yeah. Marshall, only because we are Marshall.
Yeah, I mean, is there an option D here? Yeah, honestly, of all of them, probably Marshall because
the brand, right? I
mean, like we are Marshall. That's the first thing I thought of.
Is Louisiana Tech probably a better
well, and BYU
right
played
now?
Louisiana Tech already. I mean, they played them last year.
Oh,
so you know,
no, we don't want that. Then.
Like none of these like get excited, but look, if you're in a bowl game, that's obviously an accomplishment.
Yeah, that is true. Due to injuries on their team, South Carolina will be starting a graduate assistant coach at quarterback this week.
Crazy.
Against FCS opponent. Which BYU coach would you be most confident in if they had to suit up against Arizona?
Look, immediately, Preston Hadley. No question in my mind, Preston Hadley. I see him occasionally at the gym. There's no question in my mind Preston Hadley could play right now.
I would say Harvey Unger. Obviously, I play with him, so I'm biased, but I mean, I've never, ever experienced any player in my life that, can sit all of practice, get in for one play, and then break an 80-yard, touchdown in practice, in the game. So he doesn't necessarily have to be in game shape. He's already in game shape no matter what he's at, where he's at, what he's doing. So Harvey Unger gets my vote.
All right, I like it.
100%.
I'll take both or either.
Yes. Coming up, Top 5 Tuesday on a Wednesday.
And Atunaisa Mahe is the subject of our first Deep Blue of the season, and that is coming up next. You are not going to want to miss this, I promise you. This is BYU Sports Nation.
Quick crack. Wash all you want. Don't drive dirty.
I know what it's like to be overlooked, to be doubted, to fly under the radar. I only had one offer coming out of high school, but I was ready for every moment, every opportunity, and every shot that I got. Now I'm playing professional basketball, aiming to be one of the best shooters on the planet. And I'm just getting started. Be ready for your moment with Rapid Reboot, the future of rapid recovery.
Is BYU football with Kalani Sitake and Greg Wrubell.
When I was younger, I was a better dancer. Don't show any more dancing. Okay, good. I think we've developed some really good habits the last couple of weeks and looking to step it up again. A lot of great things can happen when they care.
Not bad. That's good stuff.
Hey.
Yay.
Yeah, thank you for ending on that one. That was a good one.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
BYU soccer looks to rebound at home Thursday as they host Marquette. Watch the match at 9 Eastern on the BYU TV app.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation, live from Studio B. He is Brian. I'm Jason. If you watch the defensive line this season, you're going to notice a big guy crowding the line of scrimmage. That is sophomore Atunaisa Mahe, the gentle giant sent out last season after a very serious health scare that provided an opportunity he never would have had with his dad. This is Deep Blue, presented by Brady Industries, Simply Better.
Yeah, this is what we usually do. It's just pretty much just sing out. Being a healthy 22-year-old and receiving a blood clot, you know, that doesn't happen. That doesn't just happen to every 22-year-old. But it did happen to me. And essentially, you know, I'm just grateful for it. It's really showed me to be even more resilient, be even more hungry, and to be even more faithful. It's really heightened me in all aspects of my life. So, you know, I had blood clot, but I'm grateful.
We had nothing. We're a very poor family, coming up in a humble home. The only thing that we have is love. And so when Nisa was born into this earth, in his special own circumstance and situation, my mom and dad wanted Nisa to have everything. They didn't want him to not miss out on anything any other kid has.
So I'm originally adopted by my grandparents. So it's my grandparents' daughter who had me, who was my mom. And she originally had me at 19, and my grandparents wanted my mom to sort of, you know, get back on her feet and kind of find her life for herself. So they decided to take me under their care.
You know, it's not easy. That's hard. So I was worried for 9 kids. And I say to myself, I sacrificed my life for the rest of my kids and my grandkids.
In elementary, when he started playing football, we would always go to his games, and we would always wonder why when someone's running toward Nisa, he'll just like lightly tap, or he wouldn't even like go full on and tackle. And so my dad one day was asking him, son, why are you on the field? Like, I see you hold back. Why do you hold back?
It's because of my mom. She was very gentle. My dad was a very gentle giant. And I always like looked up to him, followed in his footsteps. So knowing that I have to hit other people, I was just kind of hesitant because I didn't want to hurt anyone.
So when my dad and my mom explained to him, you're not gonna hurt anybody, you have the gear on. If you're playing to have fun and you learn and you increase your talent, if this is your talent, you're gonna have to give it all you can.
So that just motivated me to be more competitive. And
Nisa eventually started tackling, as you can see.
Down he goes. There is the pressure. Love is sacked for the first time in the ball game. It is Mahe.
Essentially, it was just a normal workout day for me until we started running, and I just started to feel my arm go numb.
Just all the news that we ended up getting. I mean, he didn't make it through the workout. Then he was in the emergency room. Then it was like, this could possibly happen. This could possibly happen. There's so many things that were scary about the moment.
I go to, you know, finish up an essay. I'm sitting there trying to type. All I could do is just repeat the same word. I just be writing and the. So I felt really lightheaded, started to go so I went upstairs and tried to get a drink of water, and that's when my body just kind of sort of shut down. The whole left side of my body went numb. My tongue started to go numb, and I couldn't speak. The only word I could say was hospital, and I'm glad I got to say it loud enough for people to hear it downstairs. So that's when my roommate came, took me to the hospital, and
it was more like hoping that he was going to be okay and healthy than being able to play. You know, like football was the last thing on our minds, and I'm sure the last thing on his mind.
As soon as they came out saying that I could potentially have a blood clot in my brain, immediately a lot of questions came to my head, like, what does this mean? Or like, how did this happen? They're just able to sit me down and tell me, like, you know, there might be a possibility that you won't be able to play football anymore.
But when I find it out, that's all I do, fast and pray. And we go into the hospital. And we feel okay when we look at him and he said, I'm okay. And I said, are you sure? That's make me feel good.
So after being diagnosed with venous thrombosis and figuring out that I wouldn't be able to do anything, play football, lift, or work out, they just told me to go home.
I mean, sometimes they say a curse is disguised as a blessing. We didn't know that my dad's health would go down so fast. And just within that time that Naisa was down because of his blood clot, he was actually opened an opportunity to be here and to be front row and center. And he would stay up all night with my dad. And I'm like, Naisa, have you got any rest yet? He's like, yeah, sis, don't worry about me. And he says, you know what? This is actually a good opportunity. I've been talking with Dad a lot, you know, getting close, getting his time that because of school, he wasn't able to be here as much. I think that was my dad's happiest moments, was being able to be with his son for the last time. Up until the day that he passed, Naisa was right there by his side.
When you look on the brighter side of things, that I mean, such a young kid, great athlete, and then he gets this blood clot, and it threatens his life, but also threatens his future, and things that he loves, football. But for him to look on a brighter side of things, to say, well, this allowed me to be home more, be around my family, and to have some moments to remember, that's why he's someone everyone should cheer for.
Forest Park is essentially where my dad is. My whole family, we go there often. And not to take away from it being a cemetery, but we're always there having a good time. All the kids are just running around, you know, sitting around my dad and also just having fun. Sometimes we play rugby over there. I don't know if we're supposed to, but I'm pretty sure my dad likes that, so.
It's a second home for my family. I don't know how to explain the loss of him. But you know what? He wiped my tears.
You know, Heavenly Father gave me the opportunity to be there with my family, to be there with my dad. But as soon as my dad had passed away, we're going through that process. Trying to figure out what's going on with my head still. Essentially, like a couple weeks later, they said that it was fully gone. So that really showed me that, you know, it was really meant to be. For me to be home with him and to spend time with him, I feel like it was just part of the plan.
What an absolutely remarkable story. And look, everybody's situations the severity will range, but I think we've all in our lives had those moments where in the moment it feels like this is the worst thing that could have happened to us. Mm-hmm. But with perspective and time, we realize that it was a blessing that we needed at the time, and we just didn't know it. And what a great story.
Amen. Amen to that. Romans 8:28, all things happen for the good of those who love the Lord. Good verse to lean on when you go through, you know, challenging times. Coming up, a rise and shout to the head man.
And the best plays in an Arizona season opener on a Wednesday edition of Top 5 Tuesday. This is BYU Sports Nation.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork sells Ford vehicles including the F-150, the pickup designed for work and play. Tim Daly Ford maintains a large inventory, providing more choices for selecting an F-150 with the power and engineering to carry and tow heavy loads. The F-150's design offers comfort, safety, and a range of options to choose from. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
Familiar with the BYU TV app? Yes.
I beg your pardon?
Sure, it's got great original TV shows. But it also gives you access to family films for free.
Wow. Awesome!
So gather around, grab some popcorn, and let us do the rest.
It'll be fun.
Watch some of your favorite films anytime, anywhere. With the free BYU TV app.
I like it.
This is Countdown to Kickoff.
Guys, I'm done.
Players are tough. Broadcasters are way tougher than players.
Absolutely.
Algier into the end zone. A little punctuation.
That is how you start Countdown to Kickoff.
Touchdown. Isaac Rex laying out for the score.
I'm going to mark that one down. That's big enough.
Early spicy, mark it down.
Mark it down.
Yeah.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. It's time for our Top 5 Tuesday on a Wednesday. Ran out of time yesterday. Presented by Delta Airlines. For today's Top 5, we bring you the best plays from season openers against Arizona. That's right. BYU's played Arizona in a lot of season openers. We've got plays. We start with number 5 back in 2016, the Kai Nakua interception. With Arizona on the comeback trail, it was a 15-10 ball game with 6 minutes to play when Kai Nakua comes up with the big pick over the middle, slowing down the momentum. And Kai, look at that. Look at that. He always seemed to be in the right spot at the right time for those big INTs,
Always,
right?
always. I mean, the biggest one with Boise State, right? But, yeah, always a clutch player making big plays when needed the most.
All right, number 4, Matt Bushman's touchdown in 2018, back in his hometown as a sophomore. On the play action, look, Mangum delivers the dime right over the top to Matt Bushman, pouring the Cougars taking the lead, obviously going on for the victory, but look at that. Little play action right over the top, Bushman with the TD.
Dirty eyes from DBs get big plays from tight ends.
Number 3, back in 2018, the play that set up the Bushman touchdown, Mangum escaping the sack, steps up in the pocket, finds Dylan Colley, who stays with it for a remarkable catch. That gave BYU big third down conversion on 3rd and 13. On 3rd down, Bushman scoring on the very next play.
Great concentration for the DB to come in and try to break it up, but still have your eyes on the prize.
Number 2 takes us back to 2007. Max Hall's first career start. It helps to have Harvey Unga, who we mentioned earlier in the show, as your running back, turns this routine pitch and catch into a 48-yard gain. BYU would roll in this one, 27 over Arizona.
They thought they had him down, but he kept one hand up, made sure he didn't keep no knee or leg down, and kept on going.
And back to 2016 for number 1. Then freshman Jake Oldroyd lined up the 33-yard field goal to give the Cougars their first win of the season in the Kalani Sitake era as head coach of the Cougars.
That's how you become a person, because kickers aren't people, just runners.
Wow. Our question of the day, what does Kalani Sitake's contract extension mean for the BYU football program? Our elite voice of the day is presented by Sundance Mountain Resort on Instagram. Christopher West says it means more consistent winning. Extend him until he retires. We need him. Today's Rise and Shout Out presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics. We're going to give one to Kalani Sitake on the extension and one for Emma Sudweeks, student camera operator here at BYU Broadcasting. She just shot her final show prior to leaving on her mission to Madrid, Spain. Good luck to you, Emma, and thanks for all you've done here.
Go, Emma.
Our thanks to today's guests, Greg Wrubell. For Brian, I'm Jason. Shout out to Dana Wilgar. We'll see you tomorrow for more BYU Sports Nation, noon Eastern. Go Cougs.
Dennis, we had time.